Hey everybody, welcome back to 2020 Stronger Together. This is New Mexico's Voices and Images of Recovery. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's show. You can always go back to strongertogethernm.org if you want to review any of that material or if you missed it. Today we have some wonderful presentations that we'll be showing you, and of course we do have our virtual booth. So please stop in and join us. If you see that active button, that means that there's someone there and they can talk to you. We've got folks from OPRI, the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement, Serenity Mesa. They can talk to you about their amazing services for young folks. Centinela Traditional Arts are there. They've got some beautiful products available to you. The Albuquerque Center for Hope and Recovery is also there. Crossroads for Women, and so many other programs. Today we'll be kicking off with some really wonderful music. Corrido de mi Tierra. It's a wonderful song about the epidemic as it's hit New Mexico and so many of our lives. We hope that you'll enjoy that. We also will be hearing from the folks from the Santa Fe Recovery Rally. They put together this amazing show with a number of voices and faces that I think you'll probably recognize, including a wonderful piece from our mayor, the mayor of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Mr. Weber will be reading his piece for New Mexico. He's been with us every year without fail, and we really need the support from all our leaders. Thank you, Mayor, for joining us this year as well.
Hi, this is Anthony Lucero with Divino. Today we're going to be doing a song for you guys that we wrote, a song about the drug epidemic that is plaguing our valley and our state and the United States. It's a song that starts off with talking about, the beautiful community we live in, which for us is Espanola, with the beautiful mountains and the water in the ditches for our gardens. But there is a devil out there that's out to get us and our children, and that's something we have to be careful with. There's a line in the song that says, in Spanish, I'm tired of seeing the people stealing from their parents and the people that they love, and because of this epidemic. So I hope you guys enjoy this song. Again, it's an original song, and you guys take care. God bless.
Voy a cantarles un corrido de mi tierra, un lugar donde yo nací, la hermosura de amigos y familias, de las montañas y agua para el jardín. Pero tenemos que ser muy cuidadosos, porque el diablo busca un alma a robar. En las calles, escuelas y nuestras casas, él está robando almas del juventud. Santísima Madre, escucha mi oración. Tengo miedo y no puedo aguantarlo. Como soldados tenemos que pelear por nuestra gente y nuestra comunidad. Ya estoy cansado de mirar a los hijos un hombre que nunca duerme y en busca de un alma para bailar con la muerte. Los oficiales saben de los problemas y tienen que hacer algo para el juventud. Y si no lo hacen, vamos a perder nuestro futuro de nuestra tierra.
And welcome to the 2020 Santa Fe Rally for Recovery. My name is Chris Wendell, and I have the privilege of being the president of Recovery Santa Fe. I am also a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorders. And for me, that means I've not had the need to take a drink or a drug in over 35 years. I am pleased to tell you that this is our seventh celebration of recovery in Santa Fe. How cool is that? I'm also pleased to tell you that we continue to collaborate with the State Behavioral Health Planning Council, as well as recovery communities of New Mexico. And together this year, we are working to bring you the celebrations virtually. So let me tell you a little bit about what you will hear today. You will hear the ways in which Santa Fe is a great place to be in recovery. You will hear about organizations that support recovery, that work to make Santa Fe a recovery-friendly community. And last but not least, you will hear the ways in which we are keeping recovery strong in this time of COVID-19. Finally, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite you next year, in person, post-COVID, to our 8th annual Rally for Recovery. It is my pleasure to introduce to you now our host for today's activities, Matilda Fernandez. And thank you, Matilda, for your service. So please enjoy, stay safe, and remember, recovery is possible. Thank you.
I'm Matilda Fernandez. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I'm honored to be with you today, sharing all the great recovery experiences happening in Santa Fe. We'll provide a special focus on our recovery community is thriving in this time of COVID. We'll start with our Mayor, Alan Weber, and our City Councilor, Sidney Lindell, reading the city's Recovery Day Proclamation. Then we'll introduce to you in the many care organizations supporting Santa Feans in recovery. That will be followed by a peer panel discussion about what it's like to be in recovery here. Many of our recovery organizations have virtual booths coordinated with today's program. You can access these and speak with the representative by clicking the Communities and Santa Fe tab below the video on your screen. Please take a moment and connect with them. Let them know how much you appreciate their service. During our program, we ask you to use the chat function below the video to let everyone know what you're doing to keep recovery strong during COVID. We will share what you'll tell us through our Facebook page so everyone in recovery can benefit from what's working for you. And now on with our program. This year is different because COVID prevents us from meeting in person, so we want to start by remembering what happened at last year's Santa Fe Rally for Recovery.
Each year, Santa Fe celebrates everyone in recovery from conditions our society stigmatizes like mental illness, addiction, and disability. We express our gratefulness for our recoveries, for our friends and family, our service to others, and our accomplishments the past year. We show our community and ourselves that we can thrive and that we are valuable. By gathering, we remind Santa Fe that we are here and we are important. At our 6th annual rally, we celebrated certified peer support workers who are people in recovery, certified by the state, and employed by care providers. They help because they've been there. We told our stories, some of us for the first time in public, because speaking one's story is healing. We shared our art. This year, Santa Fe's Meow Wolf organized the Recovery Art Show. Artists sold awesome art that captured their recovery experience. Again this year, many artists were selling their work for the first time. Meow Wolf brought a make-your-own art center where people could express their recovery visually. We celebrated the role of pets in recoveries. Many of us couldn't have made it without the unconditional love of a pet. Pets were honored with recovery bandanas provided by the state's OPRI office. There were dogs, cats, miniature horses, almost all wearing the blue bandana. In past years, many people have come to the rally looking for help. So this year, Santa Fe County and Blue Cross Blue Shield New Mexico staffed a recovery help center where certified peers and navigators answered questions. In the Family Support Center, family members could ask about help for their loved ones. NAMI Santa Fe and Cerna Solutions staffed this center along with family peers from Blue Cross. Santa Fe's many care organizations shared the help they offered to people on their recovery journeys. Mayor Weber and City Councilors Lindell and Villarreal read the city's proclamation declaring September 21, 2019 Recovery Day in Santa Fe. Being together reminds us how far we've come. Recovery is possible for anyone willing to reach out for help and never give up.
Like last year, our Mayor Alan Weber and City Councilor Signe Lindell will read Santa Fe's 2020 Recovery Day Proclamation.
This is an official proclamation of the City of Santa Fe from the Office of the Mayor. Whereas September is National Recovery Month, and whereas
Santa Fe celebrates every person in recovery and reaches out to every person struggling to begin recovery.
And whereas our community becomes stronger when we care for and support those who have recovered or are recovering
from stigmatized illnesses such as mental illness, disabilities, or addiction.
And whereas in this time of COVID-19, our recovery community
is creating safe solutions to keep recovery support strong.
Now, therefore, I, Alan M. Weber, Mayor of the City of Santa Fe, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 26, 2020, as Recovery Day.
Thank you, Mayor Weber and Councilor Lindell. Santa Fe is a great place to recover. Celebrations are only one way we honor people in recovery. We also listen to their stories. Here's my recovery story.
Hi, my name is Matilda, and I'm here to share with you my recovery story. My story starting in recovery was when I was 31 years of age. I'm 36 years now. 5 years demonstrable recovery. At 31 years, I was fleeing a domestic violent relationship. I was on probation, 2 strikes in, facing 7 years in a federal prison. And it wasn't until then that my mental health got addressed. and there was some substance use, so there was a lot going on in my life. I was referred to LifeLink from my sister, actually, because I had hit rock bottom, and I needed help, and no one really ever addressed, Matilda. They addressed that you're on probation and you got a lot of stuff going on, but nobody ever really was deep. They didn't really think to ask, well, what's going on, to know my symptoms. And so I went to LifeLink. I was crying and crying when I was filling out my application, thick application process, tissue after tissue, sobbing, like the worst you can ever imagine, me at my worst. And I was in Kevin's office, who was probably I think the lead therapist there. And I was crying and crying. I tell this story because, now we can look back and see where I was then and where I'm at today. And even 2 months into getting services at the LifeLink, I ran into Kevin, and he asked me, Matilda, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing all right. I'm doing fine, I said. And I told him, I'm going to be in a play, I told him. And he's like, you're going to be in a play? And I was like, yeah. I had landed a small role from one of my, back in the day, acting coaches. And he gave me the role of La Llorona. And he's like, you, La Llorona? And I was like, he's like, no. It was just so funny because he's seen me sobbing so hard. And for me to be I'm La Llorona, we kind of both laughed. And when I was in that play, I was doing some real deep soul searching there. And one of the first individuals who ever gave me the tour, who is a peer and a very good friend of mine till this day, he gave me a tour of the clubhouse at the LifeLink, became a good friend of mine, went and supported me at my play. And my piece of the play of La Llorona, dancing with Our Lady of Guadalupe, it was really small, short piece, but it was a very powerful piece. It was a very, very, very powerful piece. He said that, he got a tear to his eye. And when I was doing my soul searching and my kids weren't with me at the time, they had stayed with my mom while I was getting right with myself, I was crying for mis hijos, and that was my role, mis hijos, mis hijos. So it was interesting. As I started my recovery and my mental health got addressed, and I was working a program, seeing a prescribing doctor, seeing a therapist, going to all these behavioral health summits, at the clubhouse, I would hear a lot of people talk about peers and getting certified as a peer support. And while I was active in the community, Natalie from the BHSD office asked me very seriously, Matilda, are you ready? And honestly, I didn't really know what she was talking about, but I was present, but I still didn't know. And she asked me so serious, she says, are you ready? And I was like, no, I told her. And then, a year and a half passed by, and I was getting more familiar with the peer world, and again, active in the summits and engaged with the peers. And she asked me again, she's like, in 2017, she's like, Matilda, are you ready? And I was like, yes. So I was a peer panelist, and when I was a peer panelist for the behavioral health service, they have it annually, where we celebrate Behavioral Health Day at the Santa Fe Lodge. And I was a peer panel, and I was seeking employment at the time. And my manager now, Russ, at Blue Cross Blue Shield, he's my manager now, and he was seeking peers. And he's like, are you looking for employment? I said, actually, as a matter of fact, I am. And he's like, I'm seeking a peer in your area. So I did the training. I'm now a certified peer support worker trainer. When this is my third year coming out to the Santa Fe Recovery event, and we become family. When you're involved, we really, really do become family. So coming out here at my third year, celebrating, talking about my recovery, whether it's mental health, substance use, giving back, it's all very rewarding. Thank you.
I want to thank the many people who helped me tell my story. Many organizations support recovery in Santa Fe. Next up, we have an interview with Mary Strammel of the Santa Fe Friendship Club. Hi, good morning. Welcome, Mary Strammel. How are you this morning?
I am doing great.
Well, I just want to thank you for joining me this morning and helping us celebrate this year's Santa Fe 7th Annual Recovery event.
I appreciate being invited. Thank you.
Yes. So, Mary, you are from the organization of the Friendship Club?
That's correct. I am the past president of the club, and I am the secretary now.
How are your recovery clients managing during this COVID and social isolation?
So now we no longer can hold actual meetings at the club because of, the size restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So we have made sure that the people that have held meetings at the club are now using Zoom meetings.
Okay, so you offer AA, and do you offer NA as well at the Friendship Club, or is it focused on AA?
It's AA, Al-Anon, Overeaters Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, what? Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Okay.
All 12-step meetings. So that's why we have, the 250 people coming through.
So let's introduce Prasoon, who's in back of you. Hi, Prasoon.
Hi.
Welcome with joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And what are the biggest challenges that you're dealing with now during this time?
The biggest challenge, I believe, would be not having the capability to have meetings in the Friendship Club, because the Zoom meetings are great because we see people and so on. But for our clientele, they don't replace the human factor. And right now we're sitting actually in the big room. And normally on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, there would be 100 people in this room, up to 100 people. And there would be noise all throughout the club, and other meetings would be taking place. Also, many times sponsors and the other people that attend meetings, they meet after the actual meetings themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been, a challenge, just getting people used to not having the one-on-one contact.
Yep.
So if I have a client who wants to attend your Zoom Friendship Club meetings, how can they go about that? Like, they're new, they don't know where to start. Where would we start during this time?
They can go on to our website, which is friendshipclubsantafe.org. And on that website is listed every meeting that we have at the club that we used to have. Every single one of those meetings is on Zoom, and they all have the individual ID numbers and the password numbers on our website. So nobody needs to miss a meeting except it's on Zoom.
One thing I want to add too to what Prasoon said, we have our phones still working here, and Prasoon picks up the messages every day. So let's say someone new that just knows the Friendship Club. They can call the Friendship Club. The number's in the, online, and it's also in the telephone directory. And they can call, and Prasoon will call them back and walk them through exactly how to go to the website to hook up with the Zoom meetings. So we really try to reach out and let the other recovery agencies in Santa Fe know about the Friendship Club website so that they can refer their clients to the website, or they can call and someone will call them back, right away to help them. Because it's such a critical time. Because when a person decides they want to come to the club and attend one of our recovery meetings, we really need to get back to them right away.
And how are the people that you support now doing during COVID? How are they doing?
The feedback that I get from the meetings, from the Zoom meetings, is that the Zoom meetings are active, and they, under the circumstances, they're receiving all the support that they can by connecting with each other virtually. The missing element, which is the big part of the Friendship Club, is the social aspect of it, because people would stay after meetings and before meetings, and they had volunteer tasks, and they had, the friendships that were formed here. And that's the personal aspect that's been missing because of this. But the actual meetings themselves, to the best of our knowledge, are going on, quite strongly.
I've been sober, 18 and a half years, pursuing about the same amount of time. But we really reach out to the community. That's one of our number one or two goals, to let them know we are here, that everyone is welcome, and that we're here to support the community with our meetings and events.
So what changes have you made during COVID that you think your agency will continue once we're back to the normal, whatever the new normal will be after this pandemic?
Zoom can reach so many people that may not be physically able to come to the club. We've tossed around continuing to have some of our meetings available by way of Zoom.
Perfect, yes.
Yeah, because there are people that can't come to the club, or, are bedridden and so on. We're fortunate that we were at the spot we were already as far as cleanliness. Now we're just stepping it up.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear. And thank you, Prasoon, for all your hard work at the Friendship Club.
Yeah. He's our executive director and has done a great job with the volunteers and the other part-time employees.
Great. So you take volunteers as well. If I know somebody who wants to go volunteer, needs to do community service?
Yes.
This is the place.
This is it.
I'm on the Friendship Club.
You got it.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It was really nice meeting you, Mary and Prasoon. Hi, good morning. And with us this morning, we have from the First Judicial District Court, Mr. Michael Nunez. Mr. Michael Nunez is the Drug Court Program Manager and Staff Attorney. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. So I work at the First Judicial District Court, where I oversee essentially all of the problem-solving courts, which include our adult drug court and our mental health treatment court. In addition to that, I'm also a staff attorney, and I work with the judges, and I also run the local criminal justice coordinating council.
How are the recovery clients managing now during COVID and with social isolation?
So we have two different programs, and the same would apply to both. In our drug court, they're primarily, they come in needing help with their addiction primarily. And in the mental health court, they also have a mental health diagnosis generally. And so there's usually a few more challenges that they're going through. However, what we've noticed during this time is that they've actually been pretty resilient. For the most part, they've been able to adapt. You do have some, as in non-COVID times, that do have the day-to-day struggle with recovery. The difficulty about the program, what's hard for the clients, is that it's not an inpatient. And so you're still living at home, probably around the same friends, families, contacts that you had before. And you really need to block a lot of that out and just focus on the program requirements. Overall, though, we have had 8 graduations since the beginning of the year and 4 since COVID started. So for the most part, they have done well. We've had some that get out of jail and they're just not ready. But again, that happens even in non-COVID times.
I think that's an excellent program that the court system is coming up with now in addressing people's mental health and recovery, or whatever they're dealing with. How long has this program been going on with the courts?
We've had them since 1998. and they're all over the country, and especially lately, we've been attending the national conferences, and really trying to adapt and really make ourselves more modern in following the best practices nationwide. And a lot of it really comes down to meeting the clients where they are at and working with them. In the past, the older standards, there was a lot of jail involved, jail sanctions. And we've really moved away from that because really a jail sanction doesn't do anything for anybody. And so we are getting more creative with the sanctions. We're working with them. We're providing them all the tools and resources that they need to succeed. And a lot of them are adapting and running with the resources that we give them.
And what challenges have you been facing now during COVID?
So we really had to basically reinvent the program. The program really did have a lot to do with in-person visits, in-person check-ins several times a week, in-person counseling, in-person drug testing, which we've been able to keep up with the social distancing and masks. However, once we really couldn't be having clients come into the courthouse, and once it was not safe for them to go and attend counseling in person, we really did have to think outside of the box and really reinvent the program. As of early to mid-March, we basically went completely remote. We're doing all the check-ins with the clients over Zoom and Google Meets. We do at least one video check-in with the clients per week, but many of the clients actually will video check in 2 or 3 times a week. However, when this first started, we were actually checking in with them basically daily. So the contact with the clients and the supervision actually went up. And it wasn't in order to make sure that they were not doing something wrong. Really, it was just to check in with them, check in with their mental health status, check in with their addiction status, check in their recovery, and see how they're doing, see how they were doing with the struggles, especially in the very beginning. So this has led to much more supervision, but also just being there for the clients. And the clients have, for the most part, really appreciated and adapted to that. And they reach out to us more often now as well, because they know they can reach us whenever they want. They can just hit Zoom and we'll answer. So it really did change in many, many ways. And for the most part, it really has worked. Clients have responded. We've seen more graduations. We've seen many clients doing really well. And I think as far as the challenges, just the natural COVID challenges of self-isolation, being at home, not being able to be around people. I think the group counseling, they've made it work virtual, but that group counseling is also much better in person because you can see each other and you can be in the same room and feel what everyone else is feeling. So while we've been able to adapt it and make it all remote, and there are things that we'll take away from this eventually when COVID hopefully goes away. But there's also been many, many positives that we've been able to draw from this. So we have a really good team, and everyone just really wants to help these clients.
It really does sound like you have an amazing, amazing team.
We are here. We've been doing this since 1998, and we continue to be here and have a strong presence. And I think it's really good that people understand that the courts have this option, and that the courts are not all about sentencing and authority and jail, but they're also about really trying to treat the underlying problem and help that individual and their families.
Yes, I love to hear that. But what would you say that you've adjusted now with the courts during COVID that you think you will continue using when COVID is over?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. What we would do going forward is still have a hybrid of including some remote supervision in addition to the in-person.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having us and highlighting the work that we're doing. We do appreciate it.
Another organization supporting recovery here is the Santa Fe Recovery Center. And with us today, we have our Chief Executive Officer, Sylvia Varela from the Santa Fe Recovery Center. Welcome, Sylvia. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for coming out and celebrating our 7th annual Rally of Recovery virtual event, however, this year during COVID. We're going to talk about the Santa Fe Recovery Center and what services does your agency provide and where.
Thank you so much. The Santa Fe Recovery Center is an addiction treatment provider. We are based in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but we provide services to clients throughout the state. We provide detoxification services, short and long-term residential treatment that is gender specific. We have a women and children's program as part of our residential treatment program. We also have a 90-day extended residential treatment program, as well as recovery housing and sober living, regular intensive outpatient services, and medication-assisted treatment.
Wow, you have a lot of services that you offered at Santa Fe Recovery. And how are your recovery clients managing during this time of COVID and social isolation?
So our clients are struggling at times, certainly with the isolation and with COVID. We've implemented a lot of procedures and safety precautions with the Santa Fe Recovery Center to enable us to stay open and stay operational and to continue to provide services for our clients. So we're doing outpatient services via telephonic and telehealth, and our outpatient counselors as well as our clients are able to be home and be isolating and still be able to participate in treatment. And we have gotten access to enough testing to be able to provide testing regularly for our staff and also to test clients before they come into our residential treatment programs. So at this point, our residential treatment programs are able to be operational, and we are able to have individuals come into those programs with a lot of safety precautions to ensure that there isn't a COVID outbreak and everyone remains safe. But it's certainly been a challenging time, and our clients are experiencing greater levels of substance use disorder, greater levels of financial difficulty, food insecurity, and a lot of challenges, employment challenges. It's been a difficult time.
For the intake process, or if somebody wants to detox, like would they give you a phone call first before, like would you make an appointment first? Or do you take walk-ins? How does that go?
So we are still accepting walk-ins at our Jaguar Drive location, and that's at 5312 Jaguar Drive in Santa Fe. But it is best to reach out to us via phone ahead of time. Our main phone number is 505-471-4985. And that's so that we can give information about our protocols, let people know that testing is required prior to admission. We do have some restrictions that family members have to wait in their vehicles during our intake process. So we like to be able to communicate that information and have people prepared when they come in. Also, it's sometimes helpful for them to bring in medical records with them. So a phone call is always a good idea, but walk-ins are also welcome.
Thank you. Santa Fe Recovery Center, you mentioned it offers inpatient. Okay, let's start out. It starts with detox, inpatient, outpatient. You have transitional living. I thought I heard somewhere down the line, do you take in women who are pregnant as well? There's a special program for mothers who are expecting, ladies who are expecting with their children?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So we did open 2 years ago our Women and Children's Residential Treatment Program, and that absolutely we can admit women who are pregnant as well as women who have young children who need to come into treatment with them. Right now, the age is 0 to 3 years old, and that's the age group of children who can come into treatment with their mothers. But we also help support older children, not physically in the program with their mothers, but through services that we provide to them on an outpatient basis.
That's nice. That's nice to hear. And what changes have you made now in the Santa Fe Recovery Center during COVID that you think you would still continue to utilize once COVID is over?
Yes, thank you. So one of the things that we've been able to do during COVID is a lot more services that have been able to be provided telephonically and via telehealth. We don't know completely how many of those easing of restrictions will be allowed once the crisis is over, but we've definitely found that telehealth and telephonic services have been beneficial to our clients, particularly if they have transportation issues or things of that nature. So we really hope to continue as many of the telehealth services as we can. And we've also found that just in general with the sanitation and temperature taking procedures, we have had less of all types of illness, in our programs. So people aren't spreading the flu or strep throat or things of that nature amongst our residential clients. And so definitely this has been eye-opening in terms of seeing what really good sanitation protocols can do in terms of keeping people healthy from many different illnesses. So I think that we will definitely keep many of those in place, maybe not to the extent that we're doing now. Mask wearing 24/7 can be difficult. So we would like to ease some of those restrictions when it's safe to do so, but also keep some of them in place.
And what's the length of stay for your inpatient program?
So we have a 30-day short-term residential program and then also an up to 90-day extended residential program. And then our recovery housing and sober living programs tend to be in the 4-month range. So an individual can come through our detox program, go through our residential programs and into recovery housing and really remain with us for up to 8 months or any of the intervals in between. So up to 30 days, up to 4 months with our extended program, and then opportunities for recovery housing and sober living.
And what have you seen now with the clients who are getting treatment? How are your recovery clients managing now during COVID and social isolation? Are you getting more people seeking help now, or has it slowed down? What's that looking like with the clients?
So for a brief period of time when a lot of businesses were closed and the lockdown orders were in place, we definitely saw a decrease in clients walking in for treatment, and our residential programs experienced a decrease in the census. But I think that was less because the need had decreased and more because there was high fear levels and people were really trying to follow stay-at-home orders. As we've begun to loosen, as the governor has begun to loosen some of those restrictions, we've seen our walk-in flow increase dramatically. And now it's as high as it's ever been, if not higher. So we definitely are seeing an increase in need and an increase in the flow of individuals requesting treatment services. As I mentioned earlier, it's been a challenging time, and I think the severity that we're seeing of the substance use disorders that are coming to us have increased. And again, people's socioeconomic status, food security, ability to pay rent, all of those have been really negatively impacted. So we're seeing higher numbers of people who don't have a safe, stable place to live, don't have enough money to pay their bills, things of that nature.
Yes, it's definitely a very challenging time. Thank you, Sylvia, for interviewing with us today and coming out and celebrating with us the Santa Fe Recovery event online during COVID this year. We hope to celebrate in person next year. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity. We've been part of the recovery events over the years, and it's really wonderful to see that even during challenging times, we're still celebrating recovery.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Santa Fe has many counseling services providing support to people coming into recovery. We're fortunate today to have Brian Cerna of Cerna Solutions with us today.
Sure. Thank you for asking me, Matilda. It's a pleasure. My name is Brian Cerna. I have a company called Cerna Solutions. That company provides training and consultation to organizations, governments, and just the behavioral health community at large. So we do a lot of training and education to professionals that want to keep current on their licensure or certification. And I also teach. I teach at Southwestern College, so I'm teaching people who are headed in this direction that aren't really in the field just yet. And the other thing about Cerna Solutions is we're also a behavioral health provider. So we have offices in Santa Fe. We're opening offices next week in Albuquerque. And so we do outpatient counseling. We help people with addictions. We help people with mental health issues, with couples issues, family issues, all those kinds of things. We also do the direct work as well. So we do something that nobody else does really, which is called the CRAFT program. And I know that that's one of the reasons why you wanted me to come on today, is to talk a little bit about that. So I'll just jump right into it.
That's going to be my next question. So yeah, right into it.
And so the CRAFT program is a program designed specifically to help families who have a loved one with an addiction. So for a lot of people, it's backwards, because most people feel like you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And some people feel like you have to wait for your loved one to hit bottom before they get help. And CRAFT really, it turns those assumptions on its head. You know, CRAFT has been demonstrated. There's a lot of research around it that shows that you can help somebody even before they're ready to accept that they have a problem. You can still be helpful. And what we do is we train family members on how to have a balanced approach to where they're not enabling their loved one's addiction, but they're also not severing the connection between themselves and the loved one. You know, and it's a tough thing to do, to stay connected to someone with an addiction, because it could put you at risk. It's also painful to watch a loved one with an addiction. But once families sever that tie, you know, and that's, too many families get told that they do need to sever the ties with their loved one. They say, you know what, you need to cut your daughter off. You're just enabling her. And once they cut that person out of their life, they no longer have influence, number one. And number two, if you think about what addiction really is, addiction is hopelessness. Addiction is feeling isolated. And addiction is really, it's like your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to where only it's just you and your drug of choice. And when people cut off that person with the addiction, then that actually pushes them deeper into their addiction. You know, that's why fellowship works, right? Is because all of a sudden it takes you from, you know, you're seeing the world just this big. It's just you and your drug. And then all of a sudden you go to a meeting and you're like, oh, there's other people that know what I'm going through. Oh, there's even more than one meeting. Oh, there's a sponsor. Oh, there's service. Oh, you know, and it just like your world gets bigger. And that's what recovery is making new connections to people. And so in CRAFT, we just really try to use what works. And, you know, a lot of this stuff isn't groundbreaking rocket science. You know, everybody knows that you need people, you need support, you need love, you need hope in order to get better. And we just try to empower families to give that to their loved one, because they get a lot of bad advice, and they really just don't know what to do. And it's not their fault. You know, nobody knows what to do until you get some training.
And you mentioned isolation. When people are dealing with substance use and they already feel isolated, how is it affecting them now as far as reaching out and getting services for this time during COVID and this isolation?
Yeah, it's really difficult. You know, one of the things that COVID has done is really driven home the difference between people who have resources and people who don't. Oh, I mean, if all you have is this drug that you've had this relationship with, even if you were kind of on the line of it being like a true addiction or not, you know, with COVID and with you being isolated, it's very easily to just cross that line, you know, and nobody even sees, nobody even knows that they need to be worried about you. because nobody's interacting with you. So I think that this whole isolation thing has really been a problem for everybody's mental health, addiction issues, domestic violence issues, people in poverty, just like in a lot of ways, and every teenager it's a problem for, because they can't go to school, or I mean, even kindergartens can't even be around kids their own age. It's just although I understand the quarantine, I see and I help people deal with the collateral damage of the quarantine every day, and it's a lot.
What changes have you made now in your company during COVID that you see will continue to work after, COVID, we're out, in the clear as far as going out?
Sure. Well, I think that, during the first week of the governor's stay-at-home order, we transitioned all our stuff to telehealth at the drop of a dime, just because it happened that we had an electronic system already, that it was really just a matter of me contacting the people I pay for the subscription and say, can you please turn on the telehealth function? And so we pivoted really quickly with that in providing services. And no matter what happens with COVID, we'll never go back to only doing office visits. Myself included, I really had kind of this idea that working through a computer just wasn't, it's not good enough. You need to be in the same room as somebody, just to even get, that kind of empathy, to where they get choked up and you feel it in your own throat, but I'm shocked that you can still get a lot of that through the computer screen, Yeah. So I don't think we'll ever go back to only office visits. I think we'll always do a mixture of both, where clients might even do like 75% of their counseling or therapy might be through telehealth, and they might come in every once in a while, if that, but I think this is working.
Well, you're doing a lot, Brian. I just want to thank you so much for celebrating with us this online COVID Santa Fe Recovery virtual event. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you and what you do and the services you provide. And we look forward to more of your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matilda. And I look forward to doing this next year in person.
Please take a moment and write a message to our speakers. And don't forget to share your solutions for recovery during COVID-19. Let everyone benefit from what's worked for you. Next, we have Wendy Linebrink-Allison from the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you for coming out and celebrating with us the Santa Fe Recovery event. So if you would like to share with us, what recovery services does your agency provide and where?
So we are the state's New Mexico Crisis and Access Line, offering services to all New Mexicans in a way that allows people to feel supported in the moment they need somebody here to hear them. We are not necessarily just a crisis line, but we are a mental health line that is available for people in the moment that they need somebody to talk to. The New Mexico Crisis and Access Line is staffed with behavioral health professionals 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The benefit of the crisis line is that you can call whenever you need somebody here to hear you, and you're always going to get that professional support in the moment you need it. We're not here to be your therapist or your dedicated behavioral health counselor, but we're here to help you navigate through those moments when you're not feeling well, or feeling like you need somebody to connect with, or looking for resources within the community. So what our staff do on the crisis line is we offer people the opportunity to talk about their distresses, to talk about their support systems, to talk about their needs at that moment, and to find ways to get through that time that they are experiencing unwellness, and that time when they are contemplating various different things as a result of their mental health concerns. We connect people with their support systems. We encourage people to remember that they are important and they are worth it. And we talk to people about how they can help themselves in this moment. We encourage people to seek help beyond the call. If they already have a behavioral health provider, we ask them to questions related to when they can see their provider again, or when was the last time they saw their provider, or if they don't have a provider, then we connect them to a list of resources that they can access within their community. So, you really just have this service available to you, which is free, provided by the New Mexico Department of Human Services. But not everybody wants to talk to a behavioral health professional when they're struggling or when they are reaching out to find out how to help somebody else. Sometimes they want to talk to somebody who's been there and who might have walked a similar path to what they're experiencing. And that's what our peer-to-peer warm line offers. The peer-to-peer warm line is staffed with certified peer support specialists that are in recovery themselves and that have been certified through the New Mexico Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement through the Department of Human Services, Behavioral Health Services Division. And they have found their own resiliencies. They've found their own path to recovery. And they're able to listen to people and offer them that understanding that I get it. I've been there once before, and I know it's not easy. And I know that you're sharing with me that you're having hard times right now. But I know that most people that experience similar things as you are able to navigate ways through this. If you are ready to take that first step, then the peer support specialists are here to help you with having those conversations to help you take that first step.
Thank you, Wendy. And being that it is a call-in center, nothing or has anything changed now during COVID?
So all of our processes remain the same. We're available 24/7 on the crisis line, and from 3:30 p.m. to 11:30 on the warm line to call, and from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. to text. All of our staff have transitioned from working in our call centers to working from their home offices. So our services were uninterrupted when the pandemic began. And we're very proud that we can continue to provide this uninterrupted access to services for people, especially during this time, because during this time, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of depression. Substance use is increasing within our community, and there's just that level of, I don't know where to turn. And oftentimes when you feel that way, the people that you're surrounded with are people that you don't feel like you can connect with or talk to about some of the things you're experiencing for various different reasons, and that's normal and it's okay. So that's why this anonymous crisis line is such a valuable service in our community, because people still have the opportunity to reach out and talk to somebody in those moments when they need somebody to talk to. I myself am a person with lived experience in recovery from my own mental health diagnosis. What I can tell you is that I'm never alone. And when I was not in recovery, even though I was always surrounded by people, I felt like the loneliest person on earth. I felt like there was nobody that I could talk to in my circle of people, and that they wouldn't understand, that they don't get it, that they all seem to have their life together, and I don't want to be the heavy in the group. And so I wouldn't talk to my friends or my family members about what was going on. And even if I did talk to them, then they would be people who may not necessarily have the right tools to help me, because you usually associate with the people that you have similar interests with. So all of the people that I knew also were in an unwell place before I stepped into recovery. And so they wouldn't have understood what I needed in that moment. And having this place to call, such as the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line or the peer-to-peer warm line, and talk to somebody that doesn't have an interest in trying to sway your opinion one way or another, but just here to hear you, here to support you, here to encourage you, then, that's really of benefit to people that maybe aren't alone or maybe are alone, but don't feel like they have anybody to talk to. And that's what we offer, is somebody to talk to.
Well, I like the fact that it is a crisis, a peer warm line. So as you mentioned, your services have not been interrupted, but has there been any changes with your clients as far as like call intake? Has there been more increase in calls, people expressing that they do have anxiety, depression, and they're going through a lot now during this time of COVID?
It's so funny you should ask that, because actually when the pandemic began, our call volume dropped. And that's consistent with other crisis lines across our nation. Many crisis lines across the nation had a drop in their call volume. And what we know from supporting people through crisis throughout the decades that we've been providing the service in our nation is that even though there is this moment when people aren't reaching out for help, eventually the call volume comes. And eventually the severity of the impacts of what's occurring within the community begin to have an effect on people, and they begin to find ways to find help for themselves. And the crisis line call volume within the last month has picked up, and we are at a level of calls that is beyond what we were before the pandemic. And so, we're proud that we can be here. We're proud that we can support people in those moments. We're proud that no matter what you're going through or what's happening, that we're always going to pick up the phone and we're always going to be able to answer you in that moment. And you can't always get that when you are reaching out to friends or family members, because, they're sleeping, they also work. They have other things going on in that moment. And when somebody decides to make that phone call, they need help right now. And that's what we offer, is help right now. And we anticipate that within the coming months, between now and spring, that call volume will just continue to increase as the severity of the experience that the pandemic brings upon us continues to affect people in various different ways.
Well, I'm glad to hear that New Mexico has the crisis line to call. And what changes have you made during COVID that your agency will continue after it's gone?
We've made a lot of changes since COVID began, actually. We had the opportunity to connect with the Children, Youth, and Families Department and develop an app called NM Connect, which helps to bridge the access in the crisis line within our community. Instead of having to find the number somewhere or having to find the information where you're not really certain where to look, you can download this app onto your phone, and it allows you one-touch access to connecting to the crisis line, so as that you don't have to remember a phone number, but it's right there. The app also offers you the opportunity to find resources. So maybe you're not ready to talk to somebody, and the app allows you to just look at the resources that are within the community. It also has videos on it that can help you in building up your resiliency and finding the momentum to make that first phone call. And it's available in both English and Spanish. And so, what we found, to answer your question, during this time of the pandemic is that people don't know what they don't know, and a lot of times people aren't sure where to go to get the information once they do discover what they think they need to know. And so we continue to find ways to promote accessing services, not only our own services at the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line and the peer-to-peer warm line, but also other community-based services such as our core service agencies in the community, COVID information resources, video resources to help somebody. It's not always all about making that phone call, but sometimes it's about offering people tools that allow them to take that first step when they're not ready for a conversation. And during this pandemic, we've had the opportunity to connect with various different services that you'll be seeing more soon that will help people when they're not ready to make that phone call yet. in the near future, you're going to be seeing a program called 5 Actions, which is dedicated to people who have a substance use disorder and teaching them 5 actions to support themselves in helping them through their substance use disorder and taking steps to recognize how to help themselves, how to recognize their behaviors and their risks, how to think about changing their behaviors, how to use mindfulness, how to use motivational interviewing to support yourself. And that will be released within the next few months. And so it's just been so wonderful to have the opportunity to look beyond the call during this time and see what we can do to help people in this moment without necessarily the phone call that they may not be ready to make.
Wendy, I just want to thank you so much for your time and thank you for celebrating with us this year's Santa Fe Recovery event. You have a great, great service provided, and we're very lucky to have that here in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you. It was such an honor.
The Crisis and Access Line has a booth at today's event. Drop by and talk to them. And be sure to write both the Crisis and Peer line phone numbers down. Next, we'll talk to Presbyterian Health Plan, one of New Mexico's managed care organizations. Hi, and good afternoon. With us, we have Mr. Pilo Bueno and Abe Gordon with Presbyterian Medical. We have Pilo is our Director of Recovery. So, hi, Pilo.
Hi, Matilda. How are you? Good to be here.
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Excellent. We're happy to be here.
Abe, would you like to introduce yourself as well with Presbyterian?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Abe. I am a certified peer support worker with Presbyterian Health Plan in the Recovery and Resiliency Department.
What recovery services does Presbyterian provide and focused where?
So our services are provided throughout the state of New Mexico. So in a community where we have a member who lives and requests peer services, we can provide a peer support service to that particular person. I'd like to also add that we have community health workers and care coordinators as well. So there's a number of folks that are out there providing direct services to our members. The beauty of utilizing peer supports is that peers are people who are living within recovery and really do know what it's like to have either a mental health diagnosis or live with an addiction. And they use their life skills to help people build their own toolbox and move their lives into recovery so that they can have a better, more fulfilling life.
How is COVID affecting your clients in managing their recovery, being that it is virtual?
Well, clients are affected by COVID in various ways. Sadly, at Presbyterian Health Plan, we have lost members. That is, these are people who have families, husbands, children, brothers, sisters, etc., neighbors, friends. And due to this pandemic, they have lost their lives. Now, the virus is affecting all of us in different ways. So in some cases, people have a family member who got sick and recovered. In other cases, it's been much worse. So it really does run the gamut.
And Abe, how are your clients working with you in collaboration, being that it is through the phone, through email, through a text here and there? How is the collaboration with your clients?
Well, at first it was a bit challenging, as peers help our members kind of roll with the changes and adapt and to everything going on and just keep on moving forward through things. Like that was a big process. Working face to face and in the homes with members all stopped, and there was a lot of progress that was going on when we were able to do that. So At first, it was just kind of regrouping and starting over, and how do we get through this? Just like any other challenge that we help our peers through, you know.
What have you changed now, okay, with this pandemic that's working for you now? Will you continue to utilize that when it's over, when it's said and done? We go back into the field, we see our clients, we see our members. But what's working now that you think you will continue to use later on down the line?
One of the magical things that has come out of this is members can now pick up the telephone and call a counselor and not leave their homes. And that just takes all kinds of problems out of a system. So many of the people that we work with don't have transportation. We're able to help people get the services that they need in a way that is actually working for them, and sometimes better than the in-person visit was working in the past. Also, I think that we have to become better communicators in this world of COVID. We have to accomplish a great deal over the telephone, which could sometimes be a little bit challenging, but the more we do it, the better we become at it. We know that the inflection of our voice, we know that the words that we choose are really important, and we can reach out and be with people over the phone rather than in person. And we look forward to seeing our members again face to face. But there have been some benefits, Matilda. The telephone services are really amazing. We're glad that we have that opportunity.
What feedback are you getting from your clients that they're struggling with now during this social isolation?
So at the beginning, there was a lot of concern. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of not knowing what to do, what's going to happen. And through these months, we've worked on just kind of putting one foot in front of the other. And the goal is just to support each other through it, you know, understand, have a little compassion, some definitely empathy, you know, because we're all experiencing it.
Both of you guys for your time. And hopefully next year we'll be back in action in person, and we'll be singing and dancing and eating again.
Yep.
We look forward to that very much. And thank you, Matilda. It was a pleasure spending time with you.
Thank you so much. It's really nice seeing you guys. It's just nice. Please connect, stay in touch, stay well, be well, self-care, all of the above. Take care. Next, we'll hear from Caroluna Anderson of the LifeLink Institute. Hi, I'm Caroluna Anderson. Welcome to this year's Santa Fe Recovery event. It's our 7th year. This year it's virtual, it's online. And I just want to say thank you for your time and participating and just allowing us to get to know you a little bit more. Here we have with us Caroluna Anderson, who is former CEO and the founder of the LifeLink. Right now, we're focusing on the LifeLink Training Institute. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be part of this. As you know, my world has always evolved around recovery, whether that aspect has been in workforce development or in providing services. And it has been a real joy for the last 2 years to focus with the Training Institute on actually developing and working with individuals and with peers who provide the services, and developing some real peer endorsement and credentialing for peers that can increase their skill base. So my role now is I'm the director, but I also oversee outreach and training for supportive housing and for services that are delivered by peers to various groups across the state. In 2002, I feel real proud that I was one of the first programs in our state that actually recognized the value that people with lived experience can bring. Not only in the support groups, but also in the workplace. And our focus at that time was housing for people that were experiencing homelessness, and the fact that a large percentage of them have behavioral health issues, both mental health and substance use issues. And peers providing peer services and supports has just been phenomenal. So I had set out as a goal to actually have a training and a certification and a peer endorsement from the credentialing board in New Mexico for peers on supportive housing, because I just have been so pleased with all of the outcomes over the years. And it took a long time developing all of those materials and to get the final approval, but we now have over 20, about 25 certified supportive housing peer specialists within our state. And when September of 2020 is over, we'll have another 20.
Well, I have heard that I'm not too familiar of what you're doing, but you're working with people now during this time of COVID in helping them get housed, get quarantined. Like, can you kind of give us a better understanding of exactly what that's about?
Yes, thank you so much. When the state recognized the early part of the year that we were experiencing a pretty significant crisis, just like the rest of the nation, in the form of this COVID-19, and that it was being declared as a pandemic. So reaching out and trying to determine, okay, what can we do? Because most of the focus initially was on the situation of people and their physical illness, and how many were testing positive, how many were needing ventilators, how many were needing physical intervention, such as hospitalization. Along that same line, what was happening is that these individuals that were experiencing really significant stress, they were in places where they could not isolate, and they were not receiving, they were not connected to anyone. So the Behavioral Health Services Division and the Department of Health came together and developed a program where the intent was to utilize peers to provide that connection. So this started about in May, and individuals were identified who had been tested and were waiting for the results, or they had tested positive, but there was no place to truly isolate them because they were not ill enough with symptoms, physical symptoms, to need hospitalization. So they referred to that project as displaced persons. And so peers from across the state were trained, and I was real pleased because we trained them using some of our modules from our housing training, our housing program, but it was to work with them on how do you interact with someone over the phone and who is isolated or sheltered in a motel or hotel. And how do you interact? What are the things that you do? And from there, they reached out during about a 4-month period to over 400 individuals who received the peer services. The state had applied during this time for some additional funding to expand that program through FEMA, and New Mexico was awarded those funds. So at that time, we expanded the project to provide these services, continuing in with a main focus on our Native American communities, because they were experiencing a disproportionate amount of stress and interaction, but also to expand it statewide. So since then, what has happened is we have certified peer support workers providing the services over the phone. They have interacted with over 880 contacts with folks providing peer support services. Because what we discovered is, of course, whenever anyone is stressed, some of the issues and barriers that they have with substance use or with some of their mental health issues are exacerbated. And so the peers were able to provide the peer support that they do, provide referrals, encouragement, connect them to things that they might need, such as a phone, food. If they're closing, they connect with programs, social service programs within communities to have those things delivered to the hotel, not connecting with them, but so that they can provide it. And what has been discovered is that the peers were able to encourage and get agreements so that folks have entered treatment programs. They have agreed to go to higher levels of care where they are getting some of those needs met. And because it's a peer-to-peer program, they have been able to sustain long-term connection. Whereas in the past, folks would connect maybe one time and that was it. But the peers have been able to do a great job really interacting with these individuals.
I just want to say thank you so much for celebrating this year's virtual online Santa Fe recovery event. We love you, Carol. Bless your heart and soul, and we will be in touch.
Thank you so much.
We've heard from many who support people in recovery and how they're continuing to do so during COVID. Now let's hear from a peer panel of people in recovery and how they're finding solutions to keep their recoveries strong. So I want to thank you, Floyd and Abe, and I'm Matilda, for participating in this peer panel discussion. So if we can start with you, Floyd, please introduce yourself, who you work for, and the work you do.
Hi, my name is Floyd Zamora. They call me Nico. I work for Health and Human Services for Rio Arriba County. I am a case manager there, but I also work on a branch office. We're branched out with Reroute, which is a law enforcement diversion program. Better known as LEADS. We changed that name up because we like reroute to reroute people through the system. So I really enjoy my job. It's a challenging job. It's a deal with a lot of high risk people, but it's great to see people that actually succeed in this program. So yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Floyd. And Abe, please introduce yourself, the work you do, and who you work for.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Abe, and I am a certified peer support worker with Presbyterian Health Plan on the behavioral health side, which is Magellan Health. And I am a recovery support navigator, and what that looks like is helping people improve their lives, whatever that might look like to them, helping them set and accomplish goals and focus on resiliency and getting through the challenges.
And where we are at now, we have Miss Miriam Johar who joined us. If you could please unmute, Miriam, and welcome yourself. Please introduce yourself, who you work for, and the work you do.
Sure. I'm Miriam Johar. I work with Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm a recovery support assistant, and I work with members coming out of detention centers and the prison. And I work with people with drug, alcohol addictions, and behavioral health and connecting them to services.
Thank you. I really like the fact Miriam is a coworker of mine. She does focus on the justice. I focus on people who maybe are not, just detained or getting released. We all collaborate together, all four of us here, and we've used the word connect more than one time. I mean, here we are, we get referrals. Abe and I get these referrals to reach out to. Floyd's out on the scene, with people who are about to get detained and help eliminate that. And then we have our beautiful wraparound services with Miss Miriam, who touch bases with them when they are incarcerated. Now with COVID happening, we reach out, Miriam, you reach out as they're being released, but you do offer those peer support services, correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Thank you for framing that all together. Yeah.
Definitely. It's beautiful work. I like the fact that we do come from all aspects. We're really, really reaching these clients and members where we're at. So how, Floyd, do you think COVID is affecting your life?
Okay. In the beginning, there was resistance, it was change. And so it was a little tough, but as a recovering addict and been doing this for a while, it was a challenge, and I moved forward on it. And I figured there's got to be something in this that's going to help me, figure this kind of stuff out. So it allowed me to see deeper inside me, and able to pull out, the real Nico and see, what I was looking at inside and how I felt about things that were going on with myself, how I was going to adjust, and how I was going to learn to navigate this whole thing. And when I kind of surrendered to that is when I saw a whole lot of different avenues that I could do different things and start navigating different ways to helping other people and helping with my family and just how we collaborated more with each other. I think if we really look for the good things in it, we might find something.
Well, you bring a valid point, and we're all of us that's going through this COVID pandemic, we're all learning, even ourselves, navigating a different way of what we're used to. Everybody's experiencing that. Abe, is there something in your personal or your recovery that COVID has affected you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody is not affected right now. So it definitely started out with bringing in a lot of fear and anxiety. I started experiencing that, which I do normally anyhow, but this really brought it on. And how to work, just like Nico said, how do I work through this? There was a lot of concerns in my heart about what's going to happen with behavioral health, what's going to happen with the work that we're doing. I went there, and I experienced this anxiety, but I was able to utilize my resources, my support network, and continue to do so, because there's times where it still affects me, definitely.
And I'll speak on my behalf as far as my recovery. I get anxiety. I maintain my anxiety through acupuncture, and I'm used to getting my services at We the Community, which is a public setting. They take walk-ins. Unfortunately, with COVID happening, of course, all businesses at the time had shut down, and I was really, really having a hard time getting what I need as far as taking care of my anxieties. But I found a really good one. After 3 tries, I found a good one, but it's uncomfortable. What would you say, Floyd or Abe, what would you say you're doing now to strengthen your recovery?
Well, so what I did was I started working inward. I started working with men's groups that focus on just how to change this into looking at it as what's the opportunity in it. And at that point, I do now look for opportunity. And what I've done is, I moved, and every morning I'm up walking my dogs, because it's a different situation where we're at. We now live in the city instead of the country. And so I get to go for walks. I take advantage of Zoom 12-step meetings and other recovery-based meetings, and I'm very grateful because my job provides wellness webinars. I think twice a week. I mean, not twice a week, twice a month, and they've been very helpful. Really how to reduce the stress and reduce the anxiety, and also I've taken this opportunity because I come from a small community, Espanola, and my 12-step recovery is based on a few meetings that they have. And now I have this opportunity where I can join meetings in another country. I could, 24/7 if I need it. And I definitely have really strengthened my support network with the other peers that help me through things, and that we kind of work together to move through these challenges that we face.
Floyd, you're out on the field. Like Abe and I, we work from home, or we're doing outreach resources. You are out on the field, on the scene with this LEAD program. And how do you take proper precautions as far as COVID and who you interact with?
So we basically, we call it being COVID cool. So that's the new name. So, it's the 6 feet apart. If I'm transporting clients, they sit in the bus. We wear masks. We try to wear masks when we're interacting. Even our employees, pretty much when we're in there, we're doing this. Boots on the ground, like you said. We run into a lot of people that immune systems are very low, and 99.9% of my clients are in active addiction. And so, you got to take precautions. Being part of Health and Human Services, we represent. So we make sure that people see what we're doing, and we put it out there so other people can see that we do that, follow the rules. It is what it is. And another thing we did was with Riva County is we started developing an umbrella. We would send them from where I'm at to straight into OI or straight into another treatment center. And it's just like movement. So we're collaborating. So we're able to get people before they leave treatment centers and start working with them with case management, and then move them forward to the next levels. And so it's kind of stages of change. It's trying to work that through. So one of them, that stage of change thing has been a big, how we see things, what stages are they in? What do we need to do here? And so it's been challenging, but it's been rewarding, because we're finding new ways to help people with substance abuse move forward, and not stigmatize or shine them away. We're actually bringing them more forward and saying, "Come on, we can get to this as a community." It says it takes a village to raise a child. So that's kind of how we're looking at things over here.
Well, kudos to you for being a frontline worker and still putting yourself out there with this pandemic going on, because we're facing some really, really serious stuff here with COVID. We're talking about what we do in our profession now that we're in recovery. So, that's good. That's all good. But how about, if you don't mind, let's get a little bit more personal as far as our recovery. For example, Floyd, you've been long-term in recovery for, if you don't mind me asking, for your long-term recovery, correct?
It's 6 years. I came from a situation where I was actually actively abusing drugs from the age I was 13 till I was 54, and it was a long road. But like I tell people, I was, and you guys, kudos to you guys too, because we were all being fine-tuned to do what we do. What I tell people, what rabbit holes haven't we had to come out of to succeed in recovery? And that's what I've done is, I used a lot of what I've been through to move me forward. I've come a long way. I've had to get back with my spirituality. I've had to get back with a whole lot of things. And one of the things that I tell people is, don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, a guy like me, with my record and things that have happened, and I'm sitting here talking to you, this is amazing. These are the miracles that I see in recovery.
Thank you, Floyd, for getting a little personal with us. That's what we as peers do, right? We talk about our own lived experience of where we were at and where we are at now. And Abe, if you don't mind sharing with us, how long have you been in recovery for, and where did your recovery journey start?
January 25th, 2007 is when my cell door opened. And and at that point, a little before that, I used to sit in this cell as I was fighting a lengthy case, and I used to tell myself, if I ever get the opportunity to be free again, I'm going to do whatever it takes not to return. And so January 25th, 2007, my cell door open. I got those words that we long to hear, roll it up, and I was transported to a long-term residential program in outside of Espanola, Delancey Street Foundation. And that's where my journey began. I started really fighting for my freedom, for my life, learning how to, there was so much. So I'm the kind of guy who I had no idea how to express myself. I had no idea how to respond and react to life on life's terms kind of thing. And the whole process has been learning how to, for one, express myself in a healthy way, and to kind of roll with the punches, I guess you would say, and it's been a long process. I was in Delancey Street for 5 years of my life and graduated. And at that point, I recognized that all the work that I did at Delancey Street was just earning the right to come back out here and then do the work out here, because, being in a safe environment, I guess, was different than coming out here and experiencing it, and the challenges. And I really worked through a lot of my mental and behavioral health, substance use, anxieties, fear, post-traumatic stress, these things. And just because I've done a lot of work, it still comes up. It still comes up all the time. There's things that send me into these fears, and it's a constant thing that I have to live with. And the idea is not to, I don't believe that I'm just going to rid myself of these things, but the idea is to continue to be resilient. And whenever the challenges come, get back up, get up, and let's continue moving on. Let's go for it, And a lot of times I can't do that on my own. I definitely utilize supports and in my resources, and it's been quite a process. It's been quite a process. It's been very scary. There's times where I don't always know how to get through something very gracefully. So I still utilize 12-step recovery. I utilize different recovery paths, and I haven't had to drink or use any kind of drugs whatsoever, because there's a different solution out there. There's a different solution that I found, and that solution is just applying a different set of principles to my life.
Yeah, Abe, you bring up a good point, and I think all of us, all four of us on today, can say we've earned it. It's not given to us. I think before our recovery, we will, I don't know, I mean, to each their own, but we take for granted. We feel like people owe us, and we want to be at a place that we didn't earn. So I really like the fact that when we are working a recovery program, we earn, for example, this certificate. We've put in the work, we've worked a program, whatever your background is, whatever your program is. And Miriam, would you like to share with us? I don't know, a whole lot, and just feel free to share with whatever, but you are a person in long-term recovery, and what's worked for you? Like, what's been your recovery program that has kept you working and maintaining and being who you are today?
Well, it was all about first making up my mind and recognizing that in the change that I was about to make and wanted to make and was ready to make, I had to, surround myself around legitimacy again, finding my inner pride in myself, finding that place where I felt comfortable again, that I felt accepted, that I wasn't going to be judged in a bad way. And once I did that, and I changed the direction of people, places, and things, and designed a program for myself where I was moving forward into the goals that I had put in front of me, which was to go back to college, and I did, and I graduated. I have a bachelor's degree. Thank you. That was back in 2005, to get off of Social Security and back to work. And I've worked in very good jobs. I worked for the state for 4 years. I've worked for Molina Healthcare, and then now I'm working for Blue Cross Blue Shield in this capacity of recovery. And it was so amazing to me to recognize that my path was something that I could use, my path that I chose to move forward and to get the things the goals that I wanted to get accomplished, that I could use that as like a recipe to show other people how it's done, and also encourage them along the way, and devise tools for them to be able to stay on track. And as I started doing those things, obviously my life was different. And there was no way that other lifestyle was going to be more important than the one that I was currently, navigating. And I had my son as well, which was the first component to my change. It was right after he was born that I realized I wasn't going back, because he didn't ask to be born, and I knew I had to take care of him, and I knew I had to provide a life for him, and I knew I had to be responsible, and I had to bring my self-dignity back so that I feel I can represent myself as a reputable person to my child, so that he doesn't have to feel ashamed or go through the embarrassment or go through the things that so many children go through. So all of those things were the important components of sustaining sobriety, sustaining not going back to using.
That being peers is kind of like the recipe that actually moves people forward into seeing that they're not alone in this addiction, and it's a very isolated addiction. Even though we're around 1 million people half the time getting our hustle on or whatever we were doing, we were still very alone inside. And Abe pointed that out. It works on the inside. Things that we do, I know for myself, I speak for myself, it all had to come from the inside out. And
That's
able
right.
to make me stronger,
That's right. Well, Floyd, what as you mentioned, that lifestyle is a very lonely lifestyle, and when you recognize that you have done this to yourself, it's kind of like eye-opening. And why would you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to be like casted as the untouchable? You want to be in life, alive, involved. And that's why we can step into a different a different role in doing this for other people so easily, because we've been there, we've done it. Once we recognize our validity in life and we're valid and we're human, why would we choose to go back to that direction of being lonely and being isolated and being addicted?
Yeah, that question of why would anybody want to go back? I know for me it's I don't want to, right? But just because I don't want to doesn't mean that there is so many things that I have to work on to make sure that I don't go back, right? Like I got to figure out why it is that I chose substances as my solution to all the problems that I thought that I was dealing with, right? Like what do I do instead, so just because I want to not return, that's when the work, after I made that decision, that's when all the work had to be done. Because making a decision is one thing, right? Making sure that I don't go back is another thing. And there's so many resources out there, especially where we're at in New Mexico. Like there's some good resources, there's some good supports, and I'm very grateful for the support system that I have, because I can't do this on my own. I'm the only one that can do it, but I can't do it on my own. That's what I've been learning.
Right.
Well, we have each other and we have our members.
Right.
And I think that's very helpful in sustaining and staying in sobriety, because, we know the difference now. And I think this side of the fence feels a lot more reassuring, and I know what to expect. I'm not living my life in a panic or in survival mode. I'm good. And that's what I try to bring people, my members, to that first success, second success, third success, and then it starts becoming easier. And they believe in it.
Right. And just like our members, for me, I had to learn how to set goals, because when I first started my recovery path, my goals were I'm going to get a house. I am going to do, all these things, right? And it's
I'm
like,
a rocket scientist, right?
That's what you're going to do? How are you going to do that? And break it down into these manageable size goals to be able to, move in the direction that I want to go in, and that's what it's been about, and that's a beautiful reminder about the work that we do, because most of my work is helping people through their goals, and it's the same kind of thing. What's your goal? Well, I'm going to become a veterinarian. Oh, okay. So how are you going to do that? Well, I got to go to school. Do you have a diploma? No, let's get a GED. Let's, start with these manageable size goals to finally get to where you want to go. And that's what everyday life is.
If you could say one thing about being in recovery to every person in New Mexico, what would you say?
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. There's always hope. Reach out. Ask people for help. It's a life or death situation. I can tell you, when somebody asked me out there, when did the desire to quit? When did it go away? I said, I don't know. I really can't tell you. All I know is I stopped getting busy dying and I started getting busy living, and my life started changing. I put as much resistance, resilience into my recovery as I could. I was tired of living the life I lived. I wanted to change. I too got off Social Security and went back to work. I mean, I was diagnosed with manic depression, PTSD, blah, blah, blah. When I realized that, hey, I'm a human being and I forgave myself. I didn't carry all the suffering that I thought I had to have on my back for so many years. You know, I had to let a lot of things go and work through it. Like Abe says, work through this stuff so that I was able to be okay with me. You know, you guys be okay with yourselves, work the programs, whatever programs, reach out, look for help. We're there. We're here to help.
Again, don't give up, right? Let's keep moving forward and just working on those goals.
I would say this is such a good feeling. No one has control of me anymore but me. Not the jail system, not the prison system, not the court system, not people that know me that want to judge me, or that people that don't know me that want to judge me. That doesn't happen anymore. I'm respected. I'm accepted. I am in control. And there's nothing like being in recovery. Nothing like it. Because I know better. And I choose to be better. Because I'm not living in survival mode anymore. I'm living life. And that's because I'm in recovery.
One of the solutions many people in recovery have turned to the last few months is meditation. We end our celebration with a brief meditation led by Elizabeth Carviano.
Hi, everyone. My name's Elizabeth, and I am so honored to be part of this celebration of recovery and this statewide event. And we're online, and we're still together, stronger together. Today, I want to share with you a tool or a practice that I use, especially when I'm feeling a little imbalanced or a little stressed or when anxiety comes up. And it's really working, especially during this epic time of change and during all the uncertainty that we're riding through right now. It's been really strengthening for me to use some of the tools that I learn and study and practice and teach to stay centered, to stay present, to stay in my body, and to allow for the healing to happen. Because this is a unprecedented time too for healing. And anyway, so let me get into it. I'm here at my kitchen table, and the lighting's kind of fun, but and the table shakes. But let's just do this. So this is a breath exercise for emotional balance, and it's based on a rhythmic, repetitive practice of using the breath. On the inhale, we hold the breath, and then we exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. And we want to balance the times that we're doing the inhale, the holding, and the exhale. And I like to start out with 5. 5 is actually the number of balance. We have 5 elements in the body: earth, fire, air, water, and ether. That space in between. So 5 is the number of balance. So I inhale 5, hold for 5 counts, and exhale for 5. Now that's not all. The reason I love these kind of meditation practices based on breath work is because I'm doing something that keeps my mind focused. Because meditation is essentially anything that keeps you present, that helps you be more aware of who you are, how you think, how you feel, and allow those feelings to come up, to come out, and to trust that inner world that we tap into when we go into breath work or any kind of repetitive movement. In this case, it's a repetitive breath cycle. That's not all, though. We inhale, hold, and exhale, but we're also bringing our fingertips together, all 5. So again, the 5. So bring those fingertips together, thumb comes into the heart, fingers point out. So you're really bringing energy and awareness, attention into this beautiful heart space too. So the fingertips come together, and then in this shape or in this posture, we do the breath cycle. Inhale 5 counts, 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and exhale for 5 seconds. 5 might be too much or too little for you. You'll see You might try with 3, or if 5 is you want to start going more, go to 6, go to 7, but keep it balanced. The inhale, the hold, and the exhale are all the same amount of time. So let me show you. We're going to do a few rounds. And when I do these kind of exercises, I like to close my eyes. Closing my eyes takes me into the inner world, my inner life, my inner wisdom. And when we spend time with that inner space, for me, I've learned to trust myself a little bit more, to go inside. And so let's try it. Okay, so bring the fingertips together. Just relax the shoulders and tuck in the chin a little bit because that lengthens your spine. And we're going to inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. A few more times. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now one round silently. Inhale. Good. And I always like to end any kind of practice like this with a big inhale. Let that breath circulate. Let it move from the top of your head to the tips of your toes to the depths of your lungs. And then exhale. Good. And then shake it out. Because oftentimes when we spend some time in quiet or just with our breath, things come up so they can come out. So just shake it out. Very primal, very healing. All right. So that was the 5-5-5 breath for emotional balance. We bring those fingertips together, come into our heart space, and just let the breath, just ride the waves of the breath, and fill your body up with that gift of life. I hope that works for you. It works for me. And enjoy the rest of this amazing online celebration of recovery. Much love to you all. Bye.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, New Mexico, for sharing this time with us. Thank you for your support for people in recovery, especially if you're one. We'd like to thank everyone who made this video possible. Our speakers, our Mayor Ellen Weber and Counselor Sidney Lindell, Tom Stark of Recovery Santa Fe, and Recovery Communities of New Mexico who wrote and produced our video. Also, Mountainside Ariel who edited our video. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Natalie Rivera, formerly of the state's Behavioral Health Services Division, for many years of service to strengthening recovery in New Mexico. Please join us next September when Santa Fe will celebrate recovery in person. Until then, stay safe, keep caring, and remember that we are stronger together.
Coping with the COVID pandemic has been exhausting. Curfews, restrictions, financial strain, uncertainty, and being cooped up have all begun to take a toll. This feeling is called pandemic fatigue. Pandemic fatigue can lead to irritability, boredom, frustration, and anger. Oftentimes, we may find we take out these feelings on those around us. Pandemic fatigue can also lead to other negative behaviors such as substance abuse and violence. Remember, our time apart is only for a while. If you are struggling with pandemic fatigue, reach out. Support is available through your local tribal behavioral health program, IHS service unit, or the New Mexico Crisis and Access line.
30 years, the Lifelink has been providing vital services, care, and support to the people of Santa Fe and the surrounding areas. Some of these resources include supportive housing, comprehensive mental health care, and substance abuse treatment.
We want to reintroduce Lifelink to the community of Santa Fe, so we want to share some of our work and some of the people that we work with so that the community gets a better idea of who we are.
Hope, housing, and community.
Compassion,
courage, and success.
Well, back in 2010, I was homeless with my 3-year-old son. My father had passed away, and just kind of trying to figure out what to do and where to find some help here in Santa Fe. It was really amazing to me that somebody actually cared. It made me feel better, and it did give me that empowerment.
I'm finally getting the chance to see something, actually really come through and be dedicated to something and be a part of something, and which is an awesome feeling, definitely.
Since I've been at Lifelink, I've used the counseling services, case management. I've actually had periods where I've had to use utility assistance. So in all aspects of my life, taking care of me mentally, helping with housing so that I'm protected and my children are protected from the weather, and then mentally. And it's support, and I don't know, I'm just really grateful to the Lifelink.
The Lifelink offers a place for caring without compromise.
Productive.
Community, connection.
Caring, healing.
Safety. Frontline services.
It's very welcoming, very innovative in its programs.
Lifelink is a village of support for me, and I thank them for everything they've done.
At the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line, we strive to always provide support, safety, and comfort to individuals that may be struggling for a variety of reasons. Sometimes, those struggles may lead to concerns for one's own safety or the safety of another. We work to ensure the safety of the people or the person of concern. Here's an example of what a person may experience during a call to the New Mexico Crisis and Access Line.
And I'm so glad you got connected with the crisis line. Let me make sure I understand what's going on and ask you a few questions just to make sure we're assisting you the best way we can.
Okay, thank you.
Steve stated that you were having thoughts of harming yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been struggling for a while now, and it's just too much for me to handle.
Okay. Have you done anything yet to harm yourself?
No.
Got it. Do you feel like you're in any immediate danger?
No.
Are you having thoughts of harming anyone else?
No.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. What I'll do next is get you connected with a clinician so they can find out more about what's going on and decide how we can support you best. Before I do that, I wanted to let you know we're here 24/7. If the call disconnects, please call 911 again, and we'll have all of this information on hand. Okay, I'm going to place you on a brief hold while I find a clinician to speak with you. There will be hold music, so you won't hear me, but I will still be on the line.
Okay.
Lynn, I have Amanda on the line, and she'll be able to assist you from here.
Hello, Lynn. My name is Amanda. I'm so glad that you called in for help. What I'm going to do is ask you some questions so I can understand what you're dealing with and talk with you about the best next step for after this call. Can you share with me a little bit about what's happening for you today? I just found out that my partner is cheating on me, and I don't know what to do. Oh, I am so sorry to hear that you've been going through such a tough time. My colleague mentioned that you were having thoughts of harming yourself. Is that correct?
All right, so we've made a plan for what you're going to do after the call, which includes you reading a book and writing in your journal. You've also agreed to give the rope to your partner so you don't have easy access to it. Can you also promise to call us back or call 911 if the thoughts of harming yourself increase or get worse?
Yeah, I will call back if my thoughts get worse, or I'll call 911.
Wonderful. I hope you take good care and call us back if you need to.